Hi and welcome to Political Quickie, your political show that subjectively discusses current affairs in South Africa and all around the world. My name is Mapasik Amura. I'm looking at the headspace, I'm like, is there enough? But it's not my fault, it's the hair. And I know that some of you saw me during the week and my crown was larger. Two things have since happened, right? One, I cut my split ends because it was a needed cut, right? That wasn't all my hair. Number two, I got rained on yesterday, right? And my hair shrunk. I did try to stretch it out a little bit. I somewhat did a good job, but yeah, it's larger than this. It's larger than life. However, let's get straight into the news today. President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe has offered white Zimbabwean farmers with land claims their land back. Now, you'll remember that in 1979, the Lancaster House Agreement was signed, and Britain agreed to compensate Zimbabwean white farmers whose land would be expropriated. Now, this was actually Britain's way of acknowledging that the way the land was taken was wrong, and also acknowledging the inequality in land ownership on the basis of race in Zimbabwe. However, Tony Blair's administration came in and they actually refused to compensate those farmers. The current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, while he was mayor, actually wrote on this, that Britain had an intricate role, right, that it played in terms of the collapse of the Lancaster Agreement and the current state of Zimbabwe as it stands. In the year 2000, Zimbabweans occupied the land, right? They forcefully took back their land. And that was because of the collapse of the Lancaster House Agreement that led to the sanctions that were imposed and also greatly contributed to the current economic crisis in Zimbabwe. And I say greatly, not wholly, because the likes of Cuba, Libya, Iran, Russia are or were able to actually not necessarily thrive but survive even under sanctions, okay? So I know that the most popular voice in terms of the land question in South Africa is the economic freedom fighters. So I actually had the opportunity to ask the CIC of the EFF what economic policies would be implemented if the EFF was the ruling party and they expropriated land without compensation. The answer that I got was twofold, right? Number one, how the land was taken, the occupation, right, of land in Zimbabwe, how that was taken was wrong. Number two, no reasonable country would actually impose sanctions on South Africa if the land is expropriated through the constitution. I've previously expressed how the power of binding together a collective Africa can solve its own problems, right? So Zimbabwe regressing in its own stance in terms of land shows a desperate nation that's also alone. So my question is, where is the spirit of Nyerere and Nkrumah, right? The founding fathers of Africa, the ones who aided other African countries in their independence, right? Who advocated for one Africa. I've been saying this since day one of Political Quickie, right? That Africa needs to band together. Zimbabwe doesn't need aid from Africa. Zimbabwe doesn't need Africa to advocate on its behalf, right? Zimbabwe needs actions from Africa. Africa as a whole banding together and saying, look, actually, these are the conditions. If you don't remove the sanctions, then this is what we as a collective are going to do, right? So there is that lack of support, right? And you can argue and say, well, why aren't Zimbabweans fighting for themselves? Why aren't they voting for another political party? And even though you've seen, the fraud in terms of voting and whatsoever, but at the end of the day, I just feel like the answer lies with Africa, and Africa binding together and being uncompromising, right, in ensuring that the different countries of Africa are treated with the utmost respect. Anywho, I love you guys. These are talents to serve humanity, and I will see you next week.